let's just remind ourselves it's a mountain bike podcast, not an apocalypse podcast. And so you're just finding, like, what are these triggers, the things that I'm already doing without thinking, like, and then tag on something else, something positive that's then going to help me make that stick. That's where you start to get results. And there's nothing like getting results for getting buy-in and making you more consistent. It's that classic thing. You do the easy things today, tomorrow will be hard. You do the hard things today and tomorrow will be easy. But I think it's about being versatile. It's about being able to move, to be strong, to be fit, to be resilient, to be able to endure sort of physically and maybe mentally and emotionally. It's just about being robust and able to do the things that you need to do in life and the things that you want to do in life. And I really believe that, and I've said this before on your podcast, is that better humans make better mountain bikers.
Ben Plenge, welcome back to the Downtime podcast, man. It's been a little while. How's life?
Yeah, it's been a year, but life is good, thank you. Yeah, all good.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, we normally do an episode this time of year. It's like beginning of the off season, racing sort of starting to wrap up, bar a few winter races here and there. And a lot of people start to think about fitness and like, I want to be better next year. What do I do? We've done a few of these episodes in the past, and we always sort of talk before about like, what do we want to hinge this around? Like, how do we want to kind of steer this chat? And we talked for a while, and we came up with a concept of kind of better human, better bike rider, which we both liked and sort of felt that it meant something to us and that it resonated with us. Tell me what that means to you.
So, being a better human it's a bit different for everyone, but I think it's about being versatile. It's about being able to move, to be strong, to be fit, to be resilient, to be able to endure sort of physically and maybe mentally and emotionally. It's just about being robust and able to do the things that you need to do in life and the things that you want to do in life. And I really believe that, and I've said this before on your podcast, is that better humans make better mountain bikers. It just gives you the potential to be a better rider, whether you are performance focused and thinking better rider means better race results, or whether being a better rider means just having more fun, or not getting dropped by the group, or doing a bigger ride or a charity challenge or whatever that is. Better humans have that potential to be better riders.
Yeah, nice. Do you feel like if you had your priority the other way around, and you put better rider first, do you think that can sometimes come as a detriment to being a better human? Like, can you overdo the focus on riding to the point where you might not be as good as you can be in other things, like that versatility, that ability to turn your hand to whatever?
I think that most people watching don't need to worry about that. I think that if you are maybe the highest tuned, like cross-country athlete, then the level of dedication and focus that you need to achieve those levels, or like a tour cyclist or something, means that other parts of your life really have to suffer and be sacrificed, but that's what they're willing to do. But I think for most of the people listening, I wouldn't be too worried about that, and as always, I talk about training and trying to be fitter and stronger, but I never say this is at the expense of or instead of riding your bike, because that's why everyone's turned on today. That's why everyone's listening, shall we say. They're all listening today because they love riding mountain bikes.
Yeah. So you could basically, what we're saying, I guess, is you could look at this either way. You can do things to become a better human and you'll be better on your bike, or you can purely focus on being better on your bike and you're probably going to be a better human, unless it gets really niche and a bit kind of exactly serious. And you've got this like concept of what, like, always trying to be a bit better, like 1% better every day.
I think that's how something I try to encourage, like both the elite riders that I coach, as well as the everyday riders, like the dads like us and everyone in between, the men, the women, is just say, you don't have to achieve everything and do everything at 100 miles an hour and do it all at once. And what I believe is this approach of just trying to be 1% better each day or 1% better each training session, you know? And when we take that approach and just nudge ourselves a little bit forwards, a little bit forwards, a little bit forwards over the medium and long term, and when we do different things as well and they compound together, that's when we get really great results where all of a sudden you are, you know, a better human, you know, you're really well rounded, you can do loads of different stuff, and then all of a sudden you can ride further, you can ride faster, you beat your mates when you do a race once a year. And yeah, that's that 1%, I think, really makes it not so scary for people, rather than these huge goals where it's like, oh god, I feel terrible at the moment, I've you know, maybe I had a kid, or work's been stressful, or you know, you've just had a bit of an accident and hurt your shoulder, so you're going to be off the bike for a while, and you can suddenly feel like you're so far away from achieving what you want, you know, physical goal, let's say, like a race or, you know, a certain ride or route. But when you break it down into both the parts that you want to do and then take that 1% approach, I really think that's useful. And it just, my experience and the experience of my clients I work with is that it really helps them to keep moving forwards.
I think there's maybe it's a more sustainable approach as well. Like you see a lot of people this time of year and then January with kind of New Year's resolutions and things like that. Like, I want to be 100% better every day. I'm all in. Like, I didn't train. Now I'm going to train. I'm going to do all this work. I'm going to get loads better. And it's either just too much to kind of go from, you know, 0 to hero straight away, or you get burnt out because you've pushed too hard too quickly. Like that whole, like, okay, let's just get a bit better all the time forever. Kind of thing is a lot more, I guess, easy to manage and more sustainable. Is that fair? Yeah,
I think so. I really think it is. I mean, it's funny because when I think about my year of working with different riders and athletes and stuff, is that this time of year, so October, November, is kind of like the mountain bikers' January. This is you know, whereas most personal trainers and coaches in the gym, like January is that boom time, but this really seems to be when things really pick up and get the busiest, where people are like, right, let's get fit this winter. And so it's just that 1% approach. I mean, I don't want people to think that it's just about settling for mediocrity or not working hard, not having lofty goals. That's not that. Because actually the loftier, the higher those goals, the more this approach is relevant, I think. And it's and it's also, you know, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, haven't you? You know, about things I do today and how much effect they have on tomorrow and things like that, you know, because that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Ultimately.
About making progress is about, you know, what would Chris tomorrow be glad that Chris today did? You know,
it's a good way to look at it.
It's a nice way to think about it. And again, without just taking you out of the moment, I still want you to enjoy today, Chris. Hopefully we're having fun now. But, and you know, and we're all going to do things that we enjoy today, like getting drunk at a wedding, that are going to ruin tomorrow. You know,
borrowing happiness from tomorrow.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Like, that's what boozing is, isn't it? You borrow tomorrow's happiness for today. And so, you just got to take that approach to, you know, that's going to get you closer to your goals, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I think like fitness can sometimes fall into a similar sort of approach to dieting. Like it can be faddy or bingey or whatever. Like, oh, this is the latest thing, I'm going to do it, and then I do it for 2 weeks or whatever and fall over. And this is not about that. It's about creating a consistent like lifestyle, I guess, a way of living that is better for you. It enables you to be a better person, a better human, a better rider.
100%. And that's really what most of the content I put out is all about. That's really what most of my message is about, is that anyone listening to this can be better. And I don't ever want to sound judgy. Like, it's not good or bad. It's just better. I could be better. You could be better.
Yeah, totally.
And the other thing to think about as well, because anyone listening is like, well, you know, if you live by this, Ben, then if you're 1% better every day, then you should be 365% better in a year, and you should be deadlifting 500 kilos and, you know, whatever. It's obviously, you know, we talk about fads and stuff, but without it being faddy, certainly my approach to my long-term health and fitness and to being a good human is about, I sort of switch my focus through the year. And that keeps it interesting. And it means that I'm ready for the different things I do. So, for example, this year, back in, I think it was April, I did a charity bike ride where, to prepare for that, I had to do loads of road miles. Base training, base training, which we'll come back to, which I always talk about, because your regulars will know I talk about. And so that was my focus. That's where I was trying to be 1% better each day. And I lost some muscle and some strength in my upper body because my focus was elsewhere. But that was fine. Once I achieved that goal and did the charity challenge, my focus for 1% better every day really switched to, right, I've got to be ready for Morzine in 2-3 months. So then I did a lot more upper body work. So I built more muscle, got a bit stronger there. I did less pedaling. I did some more uplifts and focused on skills and confidence and things like that. And then after that, it's then, the school holidays hit, and then for the summer, it was just trying to maintain. And so I just look and feel good, and then we come into the autumn and then it switches again. And, and everyone's year will be different. I'm not saying you have to endlessly pursue exactly the same thing, and having switching goals through the year, I think is interesting. It's useful, and it keeps you well-rounded rather than being so singularly focused.
Yeah, fair. And I guess it is worth saying that this 1% better every day is not going to be a straight line upwards on the graph. Like, there's always going to be blips in life, right? There's going to be a stressful period at work, or an illness, or an accident and an injury that you need to recover from. Like, people need to also be kind to themselves in all this. It's about, in the long term, have I been progressing? Not, am I progressing all day, every day, irrespective of what's going on in life?
Exactly. Like, shit happens, as we all know. And, the graph is kind of all over the shop, like up and down. And, we're looking for whatever you're working on. We want that gradual upward trend. But as one thing trends up, maybe something else trends down a bit. And, this is my busiest work time of year for me. And that's fine. And so I'm not really looking to be the very strongest, the very fittest this time of year, but I'm still doing positive things by training regularly and, looking after myself, that mean I can have that consistency, that sort of moving forward, still trying to be that good human. So when I've got a bit more time, I can then ride more, I can train more and keep building.
Like it. And we're talking about being a better human, and a lot of focus is always on the physical nature of that, being physically better, stronger, fitter. But this is about being mentally better too. Talk us through like how you look at like the mental side of improvement. Yeah,
so I guess this goes two ways. I mean, first of all, let's just bring it back to mountain biking. And one of the reasons why it's so awesome and it's so good is that, I think mountain biking, especially if you're just out pedaling and you go all year and things like that, it can really teach you to endure. And, you get a bit of mental toughness, especially if you like ride all winter. Like here in Wales where you live, there's going to be some savage rides this winter.
There is,
they're going to be cold, they're going to be wet, you're not going to want to go. But every time you endure one of those and you get back from one, I think you've had like a little victory. It's that short-term stress is really valuable and really important, and it builds you up where the long-term stress wears you down. Similarly, an intense or a very long ride that really taxes you physically. It's like today that climb that I normally push up, I get off and I give up and I push. I'm going to grind it out and do my absolute best to get up it. And when you get through these little barriers and you get those little mental victories, and it's enduring, it's mental toughness, and, not to be confused with being some, I don't know, emotionally withdrawn, like toxic masculinity. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just, being able to deal with those stresses, I think really then go back into your day-to-day life and make you a better human, more able to deal with the long term and the nitty-gritty of day to day. And then the other way around is, the stress of training is a good thing most of the time for most people. It stresses your body to improve. It stresses your mind to, again, push through an uncomfortable set in the gym and things like that to help you build up, and then that transfers onto the bike. So.
And it can almost become, well, not even almost, it can become enjoyable. Like I've definitely learnt, I think, over the years to enjoy suffering sometimes, not all the time, because this is not like a healthy approach to training is not about suffering every time you train. But when you are going hard, when you're doing a big, 10 out of 10 interval, like learning to suffer and actually being able to almost enjoy that experience, to like be proud of what you've done and how deep you went and how hard you went. Like, I think that's quite a positive thing that comes out of just learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Exactly. And that is such an important part of the process, is when you start to experience those things. And that's why, over the last 5-6 years that I've known you, maybe even longer, I'm not sure, you have been consistent at being active and keeping yourself strong, going to the gym, because you've learned, you've bought into it, and that's part of who you are and what you do now, and part of what keeps Chris being a better human on that path. And it's something that can be hard for people, the people listening who maybe have never done structured training or been to the gym or whatever, or maybe they've not really experienced so much adversity or physical adversity, let's say, anyway. That's really hard to kind of imagine for them that they're going to enjoy this. But my experience and the feedback that I get from people is I do get a lot of people who use an online program or come and see me at the gym, and they've never been to the gym before, and then I'll get an email, or they'll come take me to one side at the end of the gym and be like, I never thought I'd say it, but I'm actually like quite enjoying coming to the gym here. And when you can find a routine and a lifestyle and an approach that lets you enjoy the process as well as just the outcome, then that is where real long-term change can happen. That's where you're on the correct path. And this is where it could be sustainable. This is where it makes a difference, how the next 10 years go. Because I've always got my mind on that long-term outlook where, like the episode we did, shred till you're 70, that's in the back of my mind. I'm 43 now. I want to shred next month. I want to shred next year. I want to go to Morzine again next year, whatever. But in 30 odd years, I still want to be riding, and if you can enjoy the process, we're both lucky that we do, but we've also worked to get here. It's not like I was just born suddenly,
I think you have to learn. It's a process to get to the point where you're like, and I think for me, it's taken a few different steps. Like the first one was feeling an enjoyment afterwards. So it might be after a rep or after a set or after a session that I get that like, oh, I suffered then. Like that was like I did well, I pushed, got that done. Maybe I delivered more power in an interval than before, or like I lifted more weight, whatever it happens to be. And so now like trying to learn to find an enjoyment and a comfort in the pain at the moment has been like the next phase of that. And actually, so this came from Andy Kolb. I interviewed Andy Kolb earlier this year or back in the last year, I can't remember, earlier this year, I think. And he said he uses one of these, like he travels with one of these acupressure mats, a Shakti mat, which is just covered in sharp plastic spikes, thousands of sharp plastic spikes, and he spends some time on that every day. And that was his thing he does every day that he finds benefits in. And I'd looked at them years ago. I'd seen them, and I think it was we'd had some kind of stress course at work. We were all going through a pretty hectic project, very hectic project, and we got a consultant in to help with like dealing with stress, and she talked about these mats. Anyway, that's probably 20 years ago. But I went and bought one after chatting to Andy, and I lied on it the first time, and I think I was on it for about 15 seconds before I had to get off because it was the most excruciating
Really?
pain I've ever experienced. And learning to use that, I now lie on it 20 minutes every night while I read before I go to sleep.
No way.
And it's incredible. Like, you learn to relax into that pain, and kind of when you get through it, you get this amazing like warmth in your body. It sounds really hippie, but like it's actually super good. Like, my deep sleep's improved massively. So the quality of my sleep's got better. The quality of my rest and recovery's got better. But that has helped me like learn to deal with being comfortable through discomfort and feel the benefits of that as well. So like, I think there's various different ways that people can use to kind of get through that experience, maybe, and just like learn to deal with it.
I mean, that's exactly what, in different ways, what anyone has to go through. Like when they join the military, you have to just get used to being uncomfortable. Or, you know, if you want to be a professional athlete, you have to get used to being uncomfortable. And then I think just to survive in our crazy, crazy world that 2023 is, things like that help. And for some people, it's ice baths are like the thing at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same when you first get in it. You're like, I can't cope with this. You grab your breath and, you know, and I can't handle this. And then, after a while, I can stay in a bit longer. I can tolerate this. I can control it. And you're like mastering your own body and your own feelings. And it's basically the same but different. So sauna. Same. You know,
hot, cold.
Hot, cold, spiky, hard training. Just doing the hard things. As a general rule, that short-term stress is just so good for you at making you a better human, and it transfers, I think, to all parts of your life and your body. It's that classic thing. You know, you do the easy things today, tomorrow will be hard. You do the hard things today, and tomorrow will be easy. I think there's a fair bit of truth in that. So the hard things today might be going to the gym when you're tired, or, you know, going out for a ride, or just going for a walk, or, you know, whatever. But tomorrow you're 1% better, and your life is a little bit better.
Definitely.
And I think we can just apply it to so many parts of our lives. That ultimately contribute to, being a better rider. If that's, you know, that's where you want to be. And
I guess like at the very cheapest like level here, you don't need to go out and buy a spiky mat or a ice bath or whatever. You could just do a contrast shower, like have hot and cold in your shower, which is not only good for you mentally, but it's good for you physically. It's good for recovery. So there's things that can be done.
You could do that. You could do an interval session on your bike. You know, you could it's almost endless.
The mental side comes from the physical side as well. I guess it's worth saying you're going to get mentally tougher as long as you are actually working hard. I think there's definitely, it feels like you have to learn to work hard. You see some people that are like, I'm going really hard, and you're like, pretty sure you go quite a bit harder.
I think there's a bit more in the tank there. Or it's doing the easy ride or the e-bike ride, but on a really shitty day where it's just cold and like grim, and all of those things. I think they just add up over time, and they just I think the value of them is mostly underestimated by people. That, you know, what it gives you back. We've gone off on a bit of a tangent.
But
I'm happy with that tangent. It's good. I think it's relevant, and, you know, I think it's more like life advice rather than mountain bike advice.
But I think it pays back, right?
We're trying to be your gurus, basically.
No, but I think it pays back in a mountain bike context as well, because maybe I will now go out riding on a day when I wouldn't have done. That's more riding. That's got to be a good thing. Or like, you know, I'm having a rough time at a race, but I'm going to be able to work through it because I'm used to like, okay, I've got to dig deep here. Like, I've got to pedal that bit, you know, that 1% harder down here, like than I did in the previous run. Like, I'm going to empty the tank. I know how to empty the tank to the finish line, not come to cross the finish line at 80% or whatever. It's all of those things are gonna benefit you, not just in life, but in riding, I think.
100%. It's just,
nothing
is in isolation.
No, it's all linked.
The physical, the mental, the emotional, on the bike, off the bike, in the gym, you know, what you eat, when you go to bed, like everything is interconnected in this endless like web, effectively.
Yeah, and if you can be happy with discomfort, then you're happy more often, right? Because we're not always going to be comfy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fair play. All right, let's focus on the physical side, which I guess is probably what people are going to expect, and it's like it's your bag, so to speak. Give us some thoughts on like how people can approach the physical side of being a better human, better bike rider, and chipping away at this 1% every day.
I think a great place is start at the start. Where am I?
Yeah.
And just appreciating where you're at in terms of what your body can do on and off the bike. And then have a think about, ask yourself, what would make me happier? What would give me more satisfaction here? Where do I want to be? Is it, racing performance related? Like I want to be on the podium instead of top 10. Is it a distance or an elevation or a ride or, whatever it is, or not on the bike, maybe more like health oriented about, weight loss and things like that. So I think really appreciating where you are, what you can do. And you could even like test yourself. You could ride a local loop and time yourself. You could see how many press ups you could do or chin ups you can do. What can I do in the gym and what do I want to be able to do?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really simple process. And I'd urge people to go through that process if they're going to ever put together their own like plan or program. That step one of planning is find the gap, because the gap is what we're going to fill with the process. The process is the training, is going to the gym, is doing the rides and all that sort of thing. So that's where I'm always going to start.
Yeah. Okay. And then how would you then start to layer up, like actually working against some of these goals? I guess the first step is just to add some movement and activity, or maybe not add it, but make sure there's enough of it in your life. Like baseline, that's the minimum dose, I guess.
Yeah. So for me, non-negotiables just for being a half decent, well-rounded human are that you're moving, so that's like your step count and stuff like that, whether it's 10,000 steps a day or 8, whatever. Yeah. But, not 1,000 because you sat on your arse all day.
Yeah.
It is moving enough, is doing some sort of strength training each week and doing some sort of aerobic training each week. And to me, they're non-negotiables regardless if you ever ride a mountain bike in your life. That's just how to be a fit, well-rounded, robust human who can do things, who's got longevity, who's, going to potentially have better health outcomes and things like that.
Yeah.
So breaking those things down further, so many people spend so long sitting, driving, they're at their laptops, they're working from home, they're working in an office, they're not getting steps in, and that is disastrous. You've just got to make the time to move, because I understand you can't just quit your job. You can't just change your job overnight. But you can introduce movement breaks in your day where you get up from your desk and you walk up and down the stairs or walk around the block. You don't have to have your lunch at your desk. You can move. I think I've said this on here before, where if previously you commuted but now you work from home, that commuting time isn't just extra time for you to log on to your work emails early. That commuting time should now be your movement or exercise or training time. Like that's been given to you. And if you don't use that, then I think it's foolish and short-sighted. So that's really step one. For the people, and if you are moving, brilliant, keep it up. Move every day, get the steps. I mean, today is a good example, isn't it? Where plan A today is I was going to throw my e-bike in and we were going to go for a burn. You've fallen off your bike. So when I got out of the van, what did we do today?
Went for a walk.
We went for a walk because I'd driven over 3 hours, and going for a walk has made my day 1% better.
Easily.
If not 2%. And I also know that moving, getting my blood pumping, getting some fresh air, some daylight, and getting the steps is going to make this podcast and the way I communicate my ideas, my thought process, at least 1% better. I'd like to think 5 or 6.
Way more, I'd say. I felt pretty groggy first thing this morning. Like But yeah, getting out, bit of fresh air. We only went out for what, 15 minutes?
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes. It's hilly, but it's crisp day.
Yeah.
And it's just such a simple thing. And it's like, right, reset after the long drive.
Yeah.
Now I'm ready to go. I've got a bit more clarity.
Yeah.
And we can get this done. So, you know, Ben this afternoon now is thanking Ben this morning for doing that walk, you know, and maybe at the end of the day, when I get home, because I did that walk, I'm a little bit looser, a bit less stiff from the driving. And maybe now I feel a bit more inclined to do something when I get home tonight, like ride my bike or do some body weight work at home or something like that. You know?
Yeah.
So it all rolls on. And so that movement, I think, is so important. And we've both done it where you go to the gym at the end of the day and you've just been sat on your ass for hours. I mean, it's hard to get going, isn't it?
It is hard. Yeah, you feel rough. Like tight and stiff, and it takes a while to get into it. You always feel better for it, but it's not. It's not easy. Yeah, it just takes that bit longer. A bit like, it's easier, I think, to skip it. To be like, fuck it, I'm really tired. You're not tired. You've just been. Yeah. You haven't been stimulated. You just got to move. Just got to get the blood flowing and the body moving. Yeah. Whether you use a step counter, whatever. Yeah. If you're listening to this and you sit down all day, don't. Simple as that. Yeah. And I guess there's no limit, right? The more the better. Like if all you can do is 15 minutes in a day, do it. Yeah, 100%. If you can do an hour. Like it's Yeah. And carve out some time, make it happen, get up a little earlier. Something's always better than nothing, like you say. Yeah, it'd be great to go for an hour's walk, but if you can't do an hour, do half an hour. If you can't do half an hour, do 10 minutes. And again, 1% better each time. You know, we're not trying to walk a marathon every day. All right. So that's the more like, I guess, holistic part of life. What about the more targeted stuff? So you mentioned strength training and aerobic work. Yes, strength. My favourite part every time I come and talk to you. I'm like, some people are watching this on YouTube. I'm like grinning at the cameras, even though you told me not to look at the cameras. Meanwhile, you should subscribe to Downtime YouTube channel. And subscribe. Apparently there's a new animation coming that when you say like and subscribe, it's going to like flash on the screen on YouTube. And if you click the subscribe button, you get a load of little sparkles coming out of it. Oh man, it sounds like that's going to arrive. It sounds like Skynet is taking over. We're scary, isn't it? We're all fucked. But you won't be fucked if you go to the gym and get strong. There we go. Yeah. Segue. Strength training doesn't have to be complicated. Doesn't have to be all encompassing. Doesn't have to be in the gym. But it does have to be regular. It does have to be consistent. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, some sort of structure is going to give you the best returns. Yeah. Where the things that you do have context rather than grabbing a random workout for free from YouTube today and then I'm trying this training approach next week from Instagram and this one here, this one there. And look, if you're doing that, you're doing something. Yeah, happy days. Nothing. It's better than nothing. And you should absolutely do it if that's what you're going to do. But I think a better approach is that context where one thing leads on to another thing, where you progressively overload your body to get stronger or build muscle. And by progressively overload, I mean, it can literally mean this week I squatted with 50 kilos, next week with 55 kilos. I've progressively overloaded it. I'm going to adapt that stress, I get stronger. It can also be progressively harder and more advanced exercises where you work through a greater range of motion or they take more control. You need to, you learn one skill, like mountain biking. You learn the fundamental body position and then you learn more advanced skills and they layer on top. It's the same in the gym. You want to start off by learning the fundamentals, like a goblet squat, like how to hinge properly at the hips, a press up, a body weight row, a chin up, and all of those things. And then you layer it on top. And so you go from the hinge, like learning a basic hinge, and then you might go into a single leg Romanian deadlift. Or, from a goblet squat, you might go to a barbell back squat or just a heavier goblet squat. And, and all of these things have got progression and then it all gives it context because you're then on this journey because you understand where you're starting. And then the journey, there's always this progression and every workout, every training session is in the context of the bigger picture. Yeah. And that is where that's where you start to get results. And there's nothing like getting
results for getting buy-in and making you more consistent.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I surveyed a load of people the early adopters, actually, when I launched my Over 40s program on this podcast 2 years ago, almost to the week.
Yeah.
It's a 20-week program, and it took most of them about 6 months. And the people who, because I can see on the app, who were the most consistent and ticked off the most sessions, and then gave me effectively the best reviews at the end of it.
Interesting.
I contacted them. I was like, what did you do? Like, what's the secret sauce? And nearly all of them said it was all about that first sort of 4 to 6 weeks where they just doubled down on it. They did the work, they sacrificed other things, they committed to it fully. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, they're like, oh, I can feel it on the bike. I can feel it when I go upstairs. I can feel it when I play with the kids. I can feel it day to day.
Nice.
Shit, if I do this for 5 or 6, this is going to work.
Yeah. They're bought in.
And now, right, they're bought in.
Yeah.
And they back. It's a 6 month, 5-6 month program, but they then buy into it and realize that this is going to work. And so that's why I always urge people now when they start my online programs, or anyone I start with at the gym, or anyone listening who's going to start training, is yes, we want to make it consistent with that 1% kind of approach.
Yeah.
But really commit at the start. And then when you get that return where, I'm going to the gym today and I'm squatting, and I've suddenly that feels easy. 3 weeks ago, that was hard.
Yeah.
And my legs were written off for 4 days.
Yeah.
And suddenly, I can do 8 or 10 more press-ups, because it's all very realistic to have that. So buy into the process, commit to it, get the results, and then you start to think, right, I can actually do this long term here. This is where the real magic happens over the long term, and your returns are compounded over the long term to give you just a really healthy lifestyle, be a better human, get stronger.
Nice.
Because strength, maybe I'm biased, but I don't think it's non-negotiable to me.
Yeah.
In my life, in my family's life, and the people around me, I try to encourage to be stronger, because just it's a win-win situation in terms of health, performance, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, robustness.
That robustness to be able to fall off your bike better, to be able to do cooler things on your bike, to have more fun on your bike. When we chatted this morning about strength and stuff, I said, I always like the idea of sort of making yourself harder to kill, which it's not something I came up with. It's like an old school, like, strength coach. I can't remember who said it first, but, and I really like it. And without, I don't know if it's making it too serious, but this summer there were those horrendous, fires on the Greek islands. And I just remember seeing there was this iconic image from one of the Greek islands and there was just all these holidaymakers, people like you and I, who'd been on holiday on this island. You're there with your family, you're having a nice time, and you always think, we live in a developed nation and there's always going to be help. And there's this image of like this island on fire and like a long dirt road of people literally running and walking for their lives. And it really
crazy, isn't it?
Struck a chord with me. And I thought, God, well, if I was there with my young family and my wife, I want to know, being fit and strong means you're more likely to live.
Yeah, to get everyone out of there.
Yeah. And some when I talk to some friends about this, they think I'm absolutely bonkers. Oh, you're fucking mental, mate. But I take that serious. I do think about that. I am maybe a little bit of a prepper where
get your tinfoil hat. Yeah, right?
Tinfoil hat. The government are listening and the aliens are going to get me and all that. But I saw that picture and it immediately resonated. I saw the people on that road and I thought, if you've never done any training, if you're fat and unfit, then you're wheezing your way out of the edge of town because no one's coming to help you.
Yeah.
And so we've gone way off topic there. I should really get back to the gym, but I do.
No, I see where you're coming from though. Like,
and the side effects of being well prepared, human who can look after yourself and look after your friends and family, and so you could be a better bike rider.
Yeah.
Let's just remind ourselves it's a mountain bike podcast, not an apocalypse podcast. But yeah, they are not separate.
Yeah. But if anyone wants any prepper tips, you're the man.
I don't know. I do sometimes listen to this crazy podcast for this ex-US Navy SEAL called T-Mac. And it's, and he's just like an actual lunatic, and he's got some funny stuff about that. But anyway,
I'll check it out.
Maybe I've listened to too much of that.
It's all good.
But yeah, so get in the gym and, get some, if you need to, if you're not confident, then get some coaching. From someone at the gym, or use one of these programs where there's video instruction for how to do it. And I think a lot of people worry they're going to look silly in the gym because they don't know what they're doing. And number one, no one else in the gym gives a shit what you're doing.
Yeah, no one cares.
No one cares.
Yeah,
no one cares. And number two is that most people are actually quite approachable, and they would probably help you.
Yeah,
if you asked for help from a trainer, a fitness instructor, from someone in the gym who looks like they know what they're doing. Yeah. They would probably help you. And so you need to squat. You need to do some single leg work, especially. I think that single leg work is key. Like, life is a single leg sport. Mountain biking, single leg sport.
Yeah.
You need to push. You need to pull. You need to train in 3D, Chris. So not just forwards and backwards, up and down. You need to move sideways and rotate and, really explore what your body can do and where it can move. You need to do some sort of core training. Tick, 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 tick. And again, it sounds complicated, but actually, we could break it down into like 5 things. It can do a squat with a push. So I could do a squat and a press up.
Yeah.
I could then do a side lunge and a pull up.
Yeah.
So I've got some single leg work. I've got some lateral work. I've got some pulling work. And then I can finish off. I can go in the rowing machine and do some core work. And that is, right there.
It's a decent session. Yeah.
A simple, decent session. Now do that consistently. Do that same program roughly for 4, 6, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And progress the weights, or, progress the difficulty, or maybe, the squat starts to get deeper because your mobility improves because you've trained regularly.
Yeah.
And your chin up goes from doing it with a band to help you to doing it with your body weight.
Yeah.
And the side lunge, maybe you start just doing a body weight one and then you add a weight. And the press up goes from a normal press up to elevating your feet, or doing a press up into a downward dog to now work my shoulders as well. And so it's all that context, all that progression.
Yeah.
That leads to results, that leads to buy-in, that leads to long-term progress, 1% better rider, king of the mountain on Strava, happy days.
All right, got it. Let's talk about aerobic training, right? So aerobic's something that you've always pushed. And since we've been talking about it over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been more and more science based stuff out there, more and more studies on the value, not just for being a better cyclist, but for living longer, for being healthier. There's loads and loads and loads of good reasons for doing a good chunk of aerobic training, right?
Yeah. And to your most long-term and consistent listeners who've heard me on here before, they're like, oh, it's Ben talking about aerobic training again. But yeah, I would call it a non-negotiable for health, for longevity, for riding, for fitness. That aerobic work, in terms of your riding, it is absolutely, they call it base training for a reason. It's the base of your pyramid, the foundation of your pyramid of fitness, upon which all of those intervals and the fancy and the jazzy stuff is built. The higher you want your peak fitness to be on the bike or on running or in life, the wider, the broader that base needs to be. Otherwise, it's this sort of fragile, teetering thing, and it just won't get as high. Because a nice way to think about it is that when we do aerobic training, it actually physically changes things. The physical changes, like structures, are created in your body, in your muscles, your blood, your heart, your lungs. And so that's why it can be a slow process as well. It takes time, which is where people don't always like it. It doesn't sound glamorous. It's not an easy sell.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's not glossy.
I'm like, yeah, do this for 6 months. But actually you will feel a difference after a few weeks, I will say. But it takes time because you're physically changing your body. And then when you do the intervals and the high intensity work on top of that, it's then those physical changes are then enabling the adaptations to happen to the way your body functions effectively. One enables the other.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you just do the intervals at the start, you would make some really great progress. Quick progress. People like it. It feels good. I work hard for a couple of weeks. Oh, I'm fitter. And that's awesome. Do it. If you got a short-term goal for the race, short-term intervals will really ramp you up. But then if you haven't got that aerobic base as well, then it's going to really limit how much you can progress with the intervals and really peaking your fitness and build that pyramid. And even if you're not performance focused, and like you said about the health and things like that, is that the health benefits for your cardiovascular health and disease risk and like managing weight, you know, burning calories, all of that sort of thing, like they're undeniable. Like quite literally undeniable.
So science,
and it's every doctor should be prescribing this to people, except it doesn't make money for Big Pharma. And now we've got the tinfoil hat on again, Chris. But everybody should be doing this. And for some people, who, you know, in the general public who aren't very fit, walking will achieve that. For the average mountain biker listening to this, you're a bit fitter than that, and walking is great, as we talked about, but unless you put on a backpack and go up a big hill, it's probably not going to be intense enough. You're going to need to ride your bike or, you know, go to the gym and do it. I literally was writing a program for someone yesterday, and they live actually out in the Alps. It's just started snowing. So I'm like, right, we're going to get you in the gym, and you can do an hour of aerobic training at the gym, and they're going to do 15 minutes rower, 15 minutes cross trainer, 15 minutes skier, 15 minutes spin bike. And it makes it more interesting, rather than just sitting on a turbo for an hour. And, you know, we're working the whole body, and we're still achieving that. We're ticking that box. And maybe for a mountain bike racer, a 2-hour aerobic road ride would be better. I mean, almost certainly it would be, but do what we can with what we have. And we just like chipping away, and then we're going to step it up. So the thing that people find difficult with the aerobic work, well, the two things is, number one, it can feel too easy. Where you're like, I'm riding along here. This is so slow. This can't be doing me any good.
Getting overtaken.
Getting overtaken. So like men's egos sometimes interfere with this. The women are normally fine with it, if I'm honest. But actually, it's got to be slow. It's got to be low intensity. Zone 2, nasal breathing. You should be able to have a conversation at this sort of intensity. And for people who are not very aerobically fit, they are going to find that very quickly their heart rate shoots up too high when they go out on a ride, and the ride becomes too intense. And they say, this is ridiculous. I can't do this training. It's impossible. I can't do it. And those are the people who need it the most. You need to find somewhere flat initially to do the riding. Or if you can't do it where you live, then I know it's a bit boring, but start doing it indoors. You know, everything's on sale at the moment. You know, there's probably not been a better time to buy an entry-level turbo trainer. You know, it's all on sale. The whole bike industry is on sale. Go and get yourself a turbo, get in the garage, and start doing that aerobic work if you can't do it outside, because you're the ones who need it the most. And then the other thing people find is they're like, oh, you know, but I don't have loads of time to do these long rides. And long rides are, in quotes, the best way to build that aerobic base. And if you're Tom Pidcock, you're doing a lot of long rides, and 80-90% what he does will be aerobic training. I guarantee it, especially in the winter. But, you know, don't underestimate the value of little and often. Like small things done regularly, they add up and compound over time. I did an Instagram post on it recently, which resonated with a lot of people. I did some little Strava screenshots, and over 2 weeks, I'd done 4 45-minute aerobic rides, just because that's what I was able to fit in around work and the kids going back to school and stuff. And I was like, yeah, each of those rides on its own, you don't feel like it's really done much. But then if you think about, I've done 3 hours in 2 weeks, 6 hours in a month. If I said in the next 6 hours, if you were to do an extra 36 hours of aerobic training, do you think you would be fitter?
Yeah.
You would be, wouldn't you?
100%. Yeah.
Whereas if I say, Chris, just snip in a 45-minute base ride, you might not think much of it. It might be nice. It might improve your day, like I'll walk today.
Yeah.
And it's better than not going. You burn some calories, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But actually, small things done regularly really add up. It's like those 15-minute doses of mobility done regularly add up to improving your mobility and the way you move. Mm-hmm. Those, if you can't get to the gym as regularly as you'd like, doing an extra 15, 20 press-ups 2 or 3 days a week quickly adds up to hundreds of press-ups. What's 3 chin-ups a day for a year? 1,000 and whatever. Yeah, 80 odd.
A decent amount.
Someone can put it in the comments. Yeah, exactly. Small things done regularly. And guess what? That's achievable for many, if not all of the people listening.
Yeah.
Because there's always this idea about, the reality that we live in a busy world. Too busy. We know we're too busy. But these things, you have to make space for them. You have to make time. It doesn't just magically happen.
Yeah.
But when you do, and when you squeeze them in, or you move things around, or you take something else out, do it regularly. That's when you become that better human.
Yeah.
That's when I'm in this rhythm. I've got standards that I live by most of the time that mean it's easy for me to stay fit, to stay strong, mobile, healthy, 1% better each day.
Yeah.
And guess what? At any time of year, I can get on my bike, whether I've been specifically like race training or not. Any day of the year, I can get on my bike. I can go and do 1,000 meters plus of climbing,
and be fun.
30k, and really enjoy a ride with most groups of riders and mates who aren't just trying to tear my legs off. And I think that's what we all want to be able to do, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I'm with that. Before we move, we will talk a bit more about time and finding time. Before we do that, can you just remind people, give some guidance on what anaerobic is like? So it's zone 2 heart rate, which you could work out from age minus whatever equations, but they're a bit sketchy. You could do a test if you've got the ability to go and do that. But just from like a rate of perceived exertion and a few bit of guidance, like how would you give people some instruction to help them stay in that state? Good one.
Cool. So how to do an aerobic base training ride or anything aerobic. If you think of a scale of 1 to 10, we're at a 1 now. We're sat on a sofa. 10 is absolute max heart rate, about to collapse. You can only hold it for a few seconds. An aerobic ride would generally be about a 3 or a 4 out of 10.
Pretty easy.
That's the first bit. It's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like actually easy.
Yeah.
There'll be no burn in your legs. Okay. We're not experiencing the burn. If you got the burn, you're going too hard.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, you should be able to talk. Initially, doing it all nasal breathing may be hard for some people if you've never focused on that. But for most people, and over the long run, you should be able to do this entirely nasal breathing, like mouth shut the whole time. Inhale, exhale, all through the nose. And again, your respiration rate should be pretty calm. So, when you're not just breathing through your nose, you can talk.
Okay.
For the sort of general population, what I use is something called the Maffetone formula to calculate your aerobic heart rate. And for most people, that works for like a long time until you get like really fit, and then we get more specific. And basically what you do is you do 180 minus your age. And then there's a series of modifiers. And I've actually, we'll try and get a link to this in the notes. I've got a calculator on my website for it.
Sweet.
I use some online programs where 180 minus your age, which you don't need a calculator for, that's simple. But that you then modify it by, off the top of my head, it's like, for instance, you would do plus no, sorry, minus 5 beats per minute if you are coming back from injury or you've been ill or something like that. And then if you've been making progress with your training over the last year, you've got fitter, you would plus 5. And so on. I can't remember exactly. There's like 4 or 5 modifiers that either add or subtract from that. And then that gives you, so for me, I'm 43, and so I'm 137 beats per minute is like my base score. And then actually where I'm at the moment, I probably wouldn't add or subtract from that. So that would be me. I wouldn't apply a modifier with where I'm at the moment.
That's your
ceiling.
Yeah, you don't want to go higher than that.
So that's not the average. So for me, if I'm doing an aerobic ride, I'd want to try and spend most of it a couple of beats below. And that really wants to be my ceiling. I don't want to go above 137 beats per minute the whole time. So I want to be 134, 135 average is where I would try to pace it. And that's a great place to start. So check out the calculator on the website.
Good stuff. All right, man. Well, let's talk about some tips then. Maybe share a few thoughts on stuff that might be relevant to people. I think one of the things, and we've kind of alluded to it a bit, like everyone's busy, diaries are busy, and we're saying you need to add in all this stuff. So you can't just keep adding stuff into busy diaries. It doesn't work. It adds stress. It breaks people. You need to create room by maybe taking some things out. Like, in your experience, are there common areas where people can kind of take some time out to? I mean, one example you gave was if you're now working from home and you used to commute, there's your time right there to do something with it. But anything else that you would say is quite a common either waste of time or like area where people can claw some time back?
Yeah. Exactly. You've usually got to subtract before you add in terms of that diary. So a great place, well, let's have a look at your screen time. I think we're all guilty of it, and it's so easy to slip into bad habits. And if that screen time, that social media time, that YouTube time is up, then that's the first opportunity there. Cut that down. And that then is going to give so many people listening time to do something constructive.
Easier said than done. There's a lot of very clever people creating algorithms to get our attention and to keep us in these systems. But breaking through that and
trying to whether you use like an app that controls, it's like an app to control an app, but that controls it, or setting yourself some rules or standards, or talking with your housemate or partner about trying to pick each other up, like, hey, get off your phone, you're on your phone again, or have no phones in the living room, no phones at the dinner table, and things like that. That then helps to break the cycle, so that you can now all of a sudden, if I was spending an hour on YouTube a day, well, there's an hour right there. You don't need me to tell you what you could be doing.
Although if you are watching this on YouTube, please continue.
Like and subscribe, and click the next video. Keep the ad spend rolling. So that's the first one. And then it's just, you do need to be clever. You need to be a bit creative, because the stuff you're doing, you're probably doing it for a reason, but maybe you can trade some childcare with a friend, or a family or spouse, where I'll pick up your kids on a Monday after school, you pick up mine after school on a Thursday, and then after school on a Thursday 3 till 4, you've got an hour to go to the gym or something, or away from kids and being a parent and stuff. You need to communicate with the people around you. Go and speak to your boss and say, look, I really want to improve my health and my fitness. You can sell it to them. I'll probably be more productive, happier, more fulfilled, make you more money. How maybe we can, adjust my hours, a bit flexy to get out early, start early one day. You're not a morning person maybe, so you're like training the mornings off, but maybe you could just about get to work 45 minutes earlier and finish earlier, and maybe you'd prefer to train after work. It's a lot easier to train after work when you finish at 4 than when you finish at 5 or 6.
True.
And the gym's quieter. You might get on the squat rack instead of it being busy. So I think everyone's schedules and diaries are so different, but you've got to ring fence that time, put it in your calendar, put it in your diary, put it in the shared diary if you have one with someone. Maybe if you're the boss, if you are the boss, block out, you've probably got time blocked out in your employees' calendar for a bloody Zoom call every Monday, or the sales call and stuff like that. Block out their lunch times where like emails don't function. You can't email at lunchtime because that lunchtime is going to be for you to move, to exercise, and to eat some good food. You could be a great boss by doing that. And if you're an employee, log off, leave
the office at lunchtime.
Exactly. Which we already touched on before. And I know it's difficult, but we just got to make time for health. Again, these are always cliches I'm coming out with. You either make time for your health and fitness today, or you make time for sickness tomorrow. Again, which sounds like I'm being really over dramatic and drawing it all out, but it's true. And if you make time for your health and fitness today, even if a lot of young people, I wouldn't have given a shit in my 20s, told me that.
Get away with it, eh?
Army Ben at 25 actually said and believed shit like, live fast, die young. And I honestly believed it. Like, what a moron. But, we're all like that.
Youth on your side at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. But actually, if you don't want to think like that and don't think about the long term, which is fine, and just think it's just going to make you ride better on the weekend. You can send it harder if that's what motivates you. You can go harder on plenty off-piste laps next August, if that, or A-line laps. You don't have to think about you when you're 80. You can just think about you doing the gnarliest things as well, whatever motivates you.
And talk about riding with other people, like the social side of all of this can be really powerful, right? It can bring an accountability, it can add enjoyment to training, like getting a group or a few people that you do this sort of stuff with can really help.
100%. And that's, if anything, a top tip for people who are listening to this and thinking, I'm going to make some changes, is have like a try, get involved with some other people, get one of your riding mates on board and say, I'm thinking of like doing this. Do you want to see if we can do a training ride once a week? Or, I get so bored doing Zwift. You bring your turbo over on a Wednesday and we'll sit in my garage and do Zwift together and have a chat. And watch like the World Cup replay or something. And then you're accountable as well, because there are times if I'm planning to go for a ride on my own that I'm like, talk yourself out of it. I'll miss it. It's very, very rare that you're going to sack it off and like leave a mate in the lurch, like in a forestry car park somewhere on their own in December. And you like let them down. Like, that's a shit thing to do, isn't it? And they give you that accountability. That social side makes it fun. And helps you to enjoy the process. You can enjoy when one of you's having a good day, you might pick up the other one is having a bad day, and you're happy for each other's victories as well. Like, I'm competitive when I go racing and stuff like that, but I want the people I ride with to be fit and strong. I want them to all improve as well. Because that's cool when your mates are doing well. It's like when you're stoked when your friend gets a promotion at work. That's like sick, man. That's fucking good for you. Like, you've worked for that. And when your riding gets a promotion because you've done the work, then that's cool.
It is cool.
Do it.
One of the best things, reminding me, one of the best things that I've got in the last year is a desk that like goes over the bike when it's on the trainer. So that I can either I quite often research podcasts there because it's not like super intense task from a work perspective, but I can be sat pedaling along in zone 2 doing that. Or like if there is something I want to watch on YouTube that's like a decent length and it's interesting, I can sit and watch that, or like a World Cup replay like you said, or whatever. But just a desk that enables me to have a laptop comfortably in front of me if I need to. It's like,
that's cool. I've not seen that before.
I'll show you later.
Just don't drip the sweat into the expensive,
you do have to be a bit careful.
Keypad.
But no,
cool.
That was a good like multitasking investment, because zone 2 is not too taxing. Like I find I can be doing other stuff or listening to podcasts. because I don't have a commute anymore, I lost my podcasting time. That was when I used to listen to podcasts. That's how I got into it. And I lost that not commuting. So like trying to get that back and find time in my day to keep up with the podcasts I want to listen to. That's another way that I do that. So yeah, combining stuff. Which kind of brings me on to some extent, actually, unintended segue. You sent out a newsletter. We should say you have got a newsletter. If people want to sign up, they can do that on your website, I believe.
Yeah, we'll get a link to that in the show notes. Yeah, sweet. Every Tuesday for a dose of common sense.
Yeah, some good tips and stuff. But one thing you put in recently that I hadn't really thought about, but probably do to some extent, is habit stacking. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's just an approach where when we're trying to change something, because everything we've talked about is all ultimately about forming good, positive habits.
Yeah.
And if not forming, then maintaining those habits. So you're moving in that correct direction. But starting and forming and sticking to new habits can be hard, or it is hard.
Yeah.
Let's just not beat about the bush. It's hard, for most people, most of the time. And so what we can do is we can stack them together to mean it's easier to do it, easier to not forget, because something else acts as a trigger. So, for instance, for you there, the habit is you're doing your aerobic ride, and then you stacked it with doing some podcast research.
Yeah.
So the aerobic ride on the turbo train and having that set up kind of triggers that.
Yeah.
Other things could be, maybe somebody who's struggling to consistently go to the gym or train after work or something. The habit they already have is that they come in the house after work and they put their car keys in the pot and their coat on the hook. And then you can stack it that as soon as the coat goes on the hook, you immediately go upstairs and put your gym kit on. You don't go and have a coffee first or go to the kitchen or go do whatever first.
Yeah.
You stack it with the positive habit that's then going to make you going to the gym more likely. So let's have a think. So drinking water, is something sometimes people not so good at doing. And so, every time I maybe at work, you get off a Zoom call or something like that, you log off a Zoom call, that is the trigger to go and have a glass of water, because you've probably been chatting anyway, so maybe your mouth's dry. But, and so you're just finding, like, what are these triggers, the things that I'm already doing without thinking, like, and then tag on something else, something positive that's then going to help me make that stick.
Yeah.
Another one, I think a lot of people would know and agree that your riding might be better if you did a little warm-up beforehand.
Yeah.
Bit of movement, bit of mobility, but we forget, you get distracted, you get out the car or the van and you chat to your friends. But if I now get out the van and I'll get changed, I'll put my knee pads on. As soon as the knee pads go on, I'm then going to take a knee and do a hip flexor stretch, a couch stretch at the back of the van. And so the knee leads to the knee, like the habit leads to the habit. And now I'm doing just one thing, like that's all I'm aiming for, that one thing, that 1%, to do that hip flexor stretch after the drive. It's going to help me feel a bit better on the first climb. But then it's really easy for that to snowball. Well, I'm doing that, I may as well then do a little pigeon stretch on the floor and open up my glutes. I then may as well do a couple of leg swings, because I'm doing a warm-up, and I'm still chatting to my mates while they do their tire pressures.
While they look at you strangely.
Yeah, they're like, oh, look at this, keen as mustard. And so one little habit then snowballs into, all of a sudden you're doing a full warm up.
Yeah.
Because every time you pull your knee pad on, it triggers that next step.
Like it. Good advice. Right, there's a lot of fitness information out there, right? It's a bit of a minefield. If you want to put together your own plan, there's so much stuff to choose from. Obviously, there's options to get involved with your plans, and we'll talk about those a bit in a minute. But based on what we've talked about, if you were going to put together a really just basic, high-level framework for a week, what would you be asking people to do? How often and for how long? What would like a decent week look like?
A decent week, on average, most of the time for most people,
Yeah.
2 doses of strength training a week.
And a dose being
40 minutes to an hour.
okay.
I'd say 40 minutes you can get a good bit done.
Yeah.
And again, it could be in the garage, it could be body weight, it could be at the gym.
Yeah.
You know, I think the gym's good for getting you in that environment where it's very single-minded. That's what you're there to do.
Yeah.
At home, it's easy to get distracted by the fridge, by family, by work and all that sort of thing. But the fridge, yeah. Drawing me in. Instead of training, I've got ice creams.
Yeah.
But so 2 doses of strength.
Yeah.
A ride that's just for fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't all have to be serious. Doesn't all have to be training. The ride for the fun, where you don't have to wear a heart rate monitor. Who cares how fast or how far? It's just you, with or without your friends, riding your mountain bike.
What you love. Yeah.
1 or 2 doses of aerobic training.
Mm-hmm. And a dose being the longer. The better,
probably like 45 minutes plus.
Yeah.
Open-ended plus.
Yeah.
You know, but 45 minutes will do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that's kind of it really. Those 4 things, assuming then, because I wouldn't call it its own thing, that you are moving on a daily basis, you're moving, and that, you know, you can get lots of little doses of mobility, you know, but that kind of comes with training, strength training anyway. It can come with moving anyway, you know, and things like that, or warming up before a ride as well. But yeah, ideally, you know, some little doses of mobility sprinkled around there. And that's a great thing to habit stack as well. Yeah. Where while the kettle boils, you can like open up your upper back by putting your hands on the worktop and dropping your head and chest between your arms. And you could have an upper back opener, especially if you just come from your desk. Yeah. Kettle goes on, bang, hands go on the sideboard, and I drop between it. Yeah. You know, and just little bits like that.
Simple stuff.
And when I talk about consistency, that's why I was careful. I said most people, most of the time. Yeah. Because it's very easy to look at a bad week, in inverted commas, and think, oh God, I've been so inconsistent. You know, I haven't been doing my training, or even a bad fortnight because work's been stressful, you've had a cold, or the kid's not sleeping, or whatever. But the most important thing is consistency over that larger scale. Yeah. I haven't had an ideal couple of weeks here for whatever reason, but I've been consistent over the last 6 months or year or 5 years. That is the game. That's the game, you know, because we all have ups and downs. It's not linear, as we know. So just try and tick those things off, you know, and I think that is going to just set you on the right path to being a good, well-rounded, capable human who can do whatever you want. You can do anything, you know? And then when you can do anything, you've got so much potential to be a great rider, and just to enjoy riding, you know, as much as or as little as you like, you know, for a day, for a week, you know, for whatever. So
it's a good spot to be in. So that leads us on to talking a bit about your programs, I guess. So there are a few different ones. So if people want to get some expert support, then there's just tell us a bit about the different programs, what they encompass and how you might choose between them. And then I think you've got some nice discounts for the listeners.
Yeah. We've got, like the whole bike industry, I've got some unprecedentedly generous discount codes for you all as well. Nice. So hopefully, keep listening. So I've got a range of programs to fit a range of different riders, but like the main 2 things that I'd like to offer you today are, number one, the over 40s mountain bike program that I launched on this podcast exactly 2 years ago.
It's super popular.
And feedback.
I meet so many listeners that mention that they've used that program and really like benefited from it. Yeah,
good. And I absolutely back it. It's no quick fix. You know, you're going to feel a benefit after a few weeks, but like I said, it's a 20-week program. But you know, most people, it takes about 6 months to complete, or even longer. It doesn't matter. And you can repeat it. You could do it twice in a year. It's fine. It's open-ended, and it's really designed for, I guess, people like us, like mums and dads, or people in their sort of maybe late 30s and, you know, through into their 50s, where you're a bit busy, but you want to look after yourself, where a lot of these people are either completely new to the gym and to training, although you don't need a gym, you can train at home.
Yeah.
Or they're just coming back to it after an injury, or maybe putting on a bit of weight, or having kids, or career got a bit crazy. There's loads of people like that who get in touch with me about it. Okay. So that's the over 40s program. The other option we've got is generally either a bit more focused at the younger crowd, maybe 20s and 30s, or people our age who are maybe a bit more performance focused, who've already, you've done a bit in the gym, and maybe you're doing a bit of racing, or maybe you're a bit faster in the group, and it's a bit more performance focused, still well-rounded, but a little more performance focused and a bit of a higher pace from the start, rather than the gentle over 40s approach. And that's called the Complete Mountain Bike Program. And that is a subscription-based program, where every month, this is one you've been on obviously for a few years as well, every month I update a new training program that kind of goes with the Northern Hemisphere year, where at this time of year we're starting to build a foundation. We're going to lift a bit heavier in the winter, more power and conditioning in the spring, maintain through the summer. And it's got your on-bike work, it's got the strength work, it's got the mobility work, and it really ticks all of those boxes. And that's a Complete Mountain Bike Program monthly subscription. The final one, just to confuse it a little bit, is if you're thinking the Complete Mountain Bike Program is probably where you want to be, but maybe you've had an injury or you're inexperienced in the gym, then I do offer an 8-week foundation program, which just brings you up to speed. It teaches you how to train safely for the Complete Mountain Bike Program. I don't want to confuse people, so I'll leave that there. But if you've got any questions about which one you should be on, please just get in touch.
One quick
and I'll
question.
sort you out. Yeah.
Would I consider the foundation before doing the over 40s program? No. Okay.
No.
Yeah, the over 40s has got that more
the
gentle
over 40s
lead in anyway.
is exactly that. It's its own thing, its own pathway, and it starts with a foundation built into it basically through that 20 weeks. But thanks for clarifying that.
All right, cool.
Codes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right, we'll get them in the show notes and all that good stuff. So if you would like 30% off, which I've never done before, the over 40s program, then enter the code Downtime Podcast 40. Check out, and these are all capitals, no spaces.
Got it.
If you want 30% off the foundation program, if you're thinking I want to do the Complete Mountain Bike program but I'm not quite ready, then enter the code Downtime Podcast. And then if you would like the Complete Mountain Bike program, number one, you do get a free trial as part of that as well. But then after the trial, if you'd like 50% off the first month, or 20% off an annual subscription, which makes it mad value for money, then enter the code Downtime Trail, because it's for trail and enduro riders. Okay. So there's quite a lot there. Yeah. Just go to the show notes. It's all in
the show notes. Remind me what the website is for people to go and check it out.
And you can check all of those out on thestrengthfactory.uk. They're all on the programs page, where it's all laid out there nice and clearly. I've had some very fancy new videos done that show you what they're all about, how it works. They're all app based, so you get the program direct to your phone. Couldn't be simpler. And you know what? I absolutely stand by and back all of these programs. They're not cheap. They are good value, but they're not cheap. But they are covered by my money back guarantee. So if you're not completely satisfied, if you don't ride faster, drop me a line and I'll refund you. Yeah. Simple as that.
Fair play. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I've been using the Complete Mountain Bike program for a good few years now, and I find it good. It's fresh because it's updated every month. It's never just grinding away at the same thing, and it definitely helps me for sure. Yeah, man, thanks. It's been super interesting catching up. As always, took a few slightly different turns and came up with some interesting stuff and got me thinking about things and inspired to continue to try and be better, like a bit better every day. So yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for coming up to visit. And I hope people enjoy getting stuck into the episode and also checking out your website and making the most of those discount codes. When will they be running until? Are they time limited?
Yeah, they do run for only 2 weeks.
Okay, so people need to be pretty quick.
You got to get your skates on. They're going to run because it's a bigger discount than I've ever given, but they're only running for 2 weeks from the date of the podcast coming out. So I believe I think it's Tuesday the 7th, but we'll make sure the T's and C's are in there. Tuesday 7th of November.
Perfect. All right, man. Nice one.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Ben. Absolute pleasure. Cheers, mate.